we have the opportunity for all of you to interact with this amazing panel, and I want to open it up for questions that we may have that folks have been sitting there saying, all right, I wanted to ask this about that. What questions are from the audience? Let me start out with one. If your company has staff working from home, what are the challenges that have presented themselves with managing work from home workforce or hybrid workforce? Gentlemen, anybody?
Sure, I'll take that one. So we, right now, we have a very small work from home contingent. So we are basically the DMV. And so when you think about what happens at the DMV, that's what we do. A lot of it is very paper-based transactions. But we have started with, we have about 3 or 4 employees now that are fully work from home. And so some of the considerations that come with that is we deal with your driver's licenses, your social security numbers, your birth dates, your addresses, all of the good information that you could possibly turn over to the DMV. Our clerks, just as a natural course of their business, have to have access to that information. And so one of the big considerations that we had to take into account is how do we ensure the security of that information at home? How do we make sure that that our processes, right, and access to all that information is robust to make sure that it's secure. So that's kind of one of the challenges. One of the things I will say is moving forward. So I said, we have 4 or 5 employees right now. It was mentioned, one of the speakers mentioned that they see the whole world, the whole whatever, coming to about 50%. And that's actually what our organizational goal is 50% of work from home. One of the government agencies, interestingly, we saw some innovation in government. I don't mean that in but they have created a virtual clerk. So you walk into a DMV office and there's a computer screen there with somebody's smiling face on it. And so you don't actually get to interact with that person. That person is working somewhere else remotely. And so there's all kinds of ancillary benefits that come from a program like that. And so that's something that we're hoping to bring into our organization. We've already started piloting it, working on the technology to kind of overcome that. But that then frees us up to allow our employees to work from home, to work from another location, and then most importantly, it gives us the flexibility. We have locations across the state. If I need to move an employee from one location out in Brevard County to another location down in the Four Corners, normally that'd be about a 2.5-hour drive, 3 hours if you get in traffic, but I can do that in about 60 seconds with this new thing. And so that gives our company a lot more flexibility to be able to do that.
So cool.
Thank you. Thank you. And if you have a question, just raise your hand. I'll call on you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Karen Rebel. Hi, Mary. CEO of Junior Achievement. And I have a question regarding remote work in other states. If someone's choosing to go on vacation and they're like, I'd really like to be with my family for a month and I'm going to work remote for 2 weeks. And I know certain states have different laws. And where, do you say, oh, if you go to Georgia, you can't, but you go to Michigan, nope. Like, how do you balance the state issues of remote work when it's not employer required?
I feel like you're the right one to take this. Yeah,
I can take that. So this is it's a challenge. I don't necessarily tell my clients that I'm not okay with somebody working remotely for a short period of time, like 2 weeks, a month, whatever. I don't love anything happening in California and New York if you don't have to. If you're already there, obviously, right? But so if somebody's saying that, I don't know, if somebody's going to go on a 2-week vacation, they're going to do a little bit of work there, I think that's fine. But anybody who's wanting, I have clients who went remote during the pandemic and then had people say like, well, I've been working from Minnesota and we had no idea, right? So when that started to happen or trickle down in my practice, we started to develop tools around moving those people to those places, which are not just move those people to those places and it's easy. I mean, if someone wants to work in Minnesota and you don't have operations in Minnesota, it has to be a real consideration. You're right. The laws around the requirements of things that you need to give employees in those states are sometimes unclear because these laws were not written for these situations. Like, laws around family medical leave that may apply in California or New York, sometimes they're unclear as to whether they apply to someone who has a home location in Orlando and is working from their house now in New York. So it becomes this like, well, there's not case law on that. The statute is not very clear. Now you're left deciding which law are you going to comply with. So I have worked with clients to sort of develop out tools for each different state to say, okay, if you're going to move this person to Minnesota, here's the 20 laws that you need to comply with when they're there. So I think you have to tell employees if they're wanting to relocate to a state where you don't already have operations, it has to be a discussion, it has to be approved, and I would recommend that you work with counsel to build out what those requirements are so you can decide what to do.
Yeah, and I was more asking, like, if someone says, I'm gonna work remote for a month.
I think that's fine. I don't, but I mean, I think there's other considerations there that, us just because a person is work from home doesn't necessarily mean that means you can go wherever you want to work. So I think, logistically, we're gonna, you have things in place around confidentiality and operations and things like that. And I think if you have someone somewhere else for long periods of time, you could end up with a workers' comp claim.
Right.
So I don't know if I would encourage that.
I'm just curious, like, does anyone else facing that? Like, hey, I'm gonna work for a month from X, Y, Z.
And
There's
if
a
it's an
huge
hourly
push
rate,
for the
you don't know
nomad
whether they're working
lifestyle,
or not,
so-
Right.
you end up with them.
Have you seen any federal documentation?
So that everybody can hear you, what is your, you
Well, there's
mentioned
a-
about the nomad lifestyle?
So there's a huge push into the nomad lifestyle, so I didn't know if you'd seen any federal legislation that's changed or any writing that's changed for,
No.
I have a moving office or roving office. or
Yeah,
something like that.
this is very slow, these things are very slow
Right.
to develop, right? So I think eventually we may start to see states put in to enact laws around these particular situations where I just said, like, you don't know what law to apply. They're gonna get smart eventually and start, amending those statutes or making new ones to address these concerns. But right now, I'm not aware of anything that would say you could be here, be there, and what law would particularly apply. We're just going through and applying the law in each of those states. But I see this concern,
There's
and
a tax implication.
Right.
yeah, yes.
Laura, did you have-
Yes.
One day there, I'm obligated now to pay taxes.
That's right. So you not only have a legal issue from an employment perspective, and I'm not a tax lawyer, but you are right about that. If someone is working in another state, you do have to pay taxes there. So that's a whole other issue. I wouldn't encourage this. If you're going on vacation, you're going on vacation. We do work-life balance, right? So go on vacation. Don't be working remotely like that. I'm not a fan of that.
Would you recommend putting it in your policy too, like
Yes.
in your work from home policy? So
That you're at where you say
Yeah.
you're going to be,
Yeah.
in your house.
Okay, yes, ma'am?
Melissa Morris, Jobs Partnership. So along these same lines, offering flexibility in the workplace. Say an employee has a sick mother that's in Michigan and you're allowing them, or a dying parent that's in another state. I work with a very small organization, but we've had both of those things come up where someone needs to go away for 2 weeks in another state and they still want to be able to work, specifically with dying parents, because you don't know when that's going to happen. So they want to use as much time as, they want to use as little time as they can, because they need to save time. So how do you function around situations like that?
Operationally or legally?
Legally.
Yeah,
I mean,
think,
operationally, we struggle along and make it work. but-
yeah. I think you have to be careful because, again, the different laws apply in different places. I think 2 weeks is a reasonable time frame from an employment standpoint. I don't think you're going to be tagged with many of those laws. I think there are tax implications I really can't speak to. But as far as do you have to comply with wage and hour laws in Minnesota because someone's there for 2 weeks? I don't think so. Prolonged periods of time, I think you have to be having different conversations around, we can't do that. We can't accommodate that. That's a leave of absence now, right? So I think it really has to make sense for your organization.
Craig?
All right, so if we go back pre-pandemic, pretty much everybody had employees, all the restaurants, the service stations, whatever, fill in the blank. We go through the pandemic, they tell us unemployment's at 3.whatever%. People have moved into the state, yet nobody has staffing. Where did everybody go? How are these people paying their bills? Legitimately, where did they go?
Yeah, so I can share, a huge transition for us was the increase in unemployment in the state of Florida. So we lost a huge amount of candidates. I know this is crazy. Some of our younger generation, we were hearing that they were taking the unemployment money and trading it in the stock market to earn income. So that's just like one example, right? And so I think for us, this huge population of workers transitioned into the unemployment, and then when we had to reintroduce them into the marketplace, right? I don't know every situation what happened in their family dynamic, but maybe their spouse got a job with a huge increased wage and now there's only one person working in the home. So, Jeff, go on.
Just to that same question,
Please.
I'd like to ask our three CEOs here.
Sure.
How many new people have been introduced to your company that fall into that category?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you do, or let's say, what did you ask, one, to, when they were being interviewed, why the gap, okay? And how many new people came in, not just from other jobs, but from this dormant time that they had?
Or who did you lose? Like, did you lose people to, right, Jeff, I think that goes along with your
Well, that
question.
too,
Yeah.
correct. And I know, Sergey, you got to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a, sorry, not serious, I have a question, a lot, like, basic on the white collar, blue collar difference that perhaps that the industries are facing. So they work in construction. I was talking to some people here. We've been very fortunate that we actually increased our people. We went from 100 employees to 150 in the past 12 months. Now, it's the, again, a lot of the blue collar aspect of it has been driving the force. I mean, a lot of construction based. What's hard right now for us is kind of like the supervisor, superintendent, a little higher, the higher you go, those are people that are easily kind of changing, and they're getting, for example, we had a discussion with the president saying that one of our superintendents got another job making around like 10 grand more by doing way less. So that has been a struggle. However, on the, I guess the quote unquote more specific skills and I guess the entry level stuff, what we've been finding was that the first thing we did, and again it's retroactively, we made sure that whoever was in house, they stayed in house. So we, like a lot of increases in rates. Now, again, we're a family owned business, so we kind of answer to ourselves and we take the risk on ourselves. Huge risk. I mean, like it doesn't look pretty at times on the bottom line, but it's definitely, the method is working right now. I mean, our rates are going up in different services. So that's one thing we did. The second thing we did, I mean, I don't sound like, first of all, but immigrants. Like, I mean, it is what it is. Like, a lot of diversity has been definitely moving our meter up. So the more, I mean, again, we're Colombian, so it was easier on us to had a lot of Hispanic-based employees. They feel more relation to us, but definitely the diversity route was helpful. And then the third one is go younger. Like, I mean, every single day, like the pool of before we were having like around, and there's some people here that know our industry and our company. So the pool of people was around like 45 to 55. The past 2 months, under 35.
So
Like,
what
I mean,
what I
really.
hear you saying is the three things you've done: you've paid more for internal people,
Yeah.
you've broadened your search to not just, hey, you're a resident of Florida and you were born and grown up here, it's the whole world, and then you're looking for the Gen Zs and millennials as well to bring in. So do you have a question for the
Yeah,
group?
the question is mostly about like, how do you, so the struggle right now is that pace of people that are not, like everybody's supervisor and above, they want to do way less for way more money.
Yeah.
And I take the consideration, you know, like and I think Nicole, when you put the different levels, that kind of opened my mind that, oh, there's different levels of, you know, what you're supposed to do. But everybody above one, that is where we're having a lot of trouble with. Like, how do you?
I think our CEO
Gentlemen,
is
do you
his.
guys, Larry, Johnny, Andrew, do you guys have a comment about that?
I can definitely tackle that one. So the dynamics of our company are that we've been growing dramatically over the last 2 years. And so we created a lot of new roles at the senior level that we did not have before. And so the pandemic put a lot of people out of work. And that then provided for us a pool of candidates that we could then fill those positions with. So that was kind of what happened a year and a half to a year ago. More recently, we've been competing with people who are willing, to your point, exactly, we've been struggling very much with this, people who are willing to pay more for less work than what we were offering. And so we had the internal discussion, should we just increase pay kind of across the board and offer an extra $10,000, $20,000 to try and go after that talent. But the tack that we have taken, and it is yet to be determined if this is going to play out in the long run, is to really focus on the company culture, right? We are selling a vision and a dream, right? Where nobody gets excited about, man, I'm going to go work at the DMV, right? But we're really trying to revolutionize the industry. We're really trying to set a new standard about what it means to be a company in this space. And so when you have that conversation with somebody, when you talk about what that is, what the vision of the company is, what we're trying to do, you get a certain type of person that's interested in that, that wants to be a part of that, and those are the people that we attract. It's a much slower pace, right, than where we were before pre-pandemic. You put a job post and you get 10 candidates before the end of the day. So it's a much slower pace than that, but what I hope plays out in the long run is that the people that we're getting right now want to stay with us longer. They want to see it through to the end. They want to see kind of what that vision grows into. I have no idea if it's going to happen.
Hang on a second, Johnny.
Yeah, I just want to, we talked about the great reevaluation previously, and you have to understand that at any stage, your employees right now are in some thought process of what are my options, and they're exploring that. And you have to understand that we're positioning our brand and our cultures in a way that's going to help support how they evaluate us from the outside and the inside. So we have to think about preservation and retention, because the competitive landscape is much different, right? All over the nation, all over the world, potentially being able to attract, offer salaries that are doing less work, and it's just a completely different environment. And frankly, there's no map, right? There's no roadmap on exactly how to go through this. We're going through this as we, learn and evolve. But we have to stay competitive. We have to look at ways that we could, increase our benefits, compete with these, benefits past just the compensation in creative ways that we learned about. We have a lot, culture is very big for us. We're a creative agency, so it's very much high touch environment. And so us being hybrid, we do 2 days in office, 3 days remote, right? And that works for us. But every industry and business is unique. Really, the rule of thumb when studying this that I've seen in terms of the hybrid environment is how interdependent are we to work with one another, right? Am I a CPA that I can just stay in my zone and do my part and I really don't have much interaction? Or does my content team and my design team need to really interact a lot, right? And having that touch point to figure out really how to structure the recipe of, how many days in versus how many days out. But, the reality is staying competitive and understanding how they're evaluating your business. Are you investing in your website? Are you keeping your brand in a professional setting that inspires people to, that they admire and they're proud to be a part of? It's things like that that we have to think about that aren't just related to pay and comp.
That's a great point. And Larry, some of you may not know, Evoke Advertising, as well as Highland, was named in OBJ's best places to work. So Larry, obviously that speaks well of the culture that you have set up. And both Johnny and Andrew alluded to giving them a compelling place to go. What have you done to create that at Evoke?
We're on the struggle bus, just like you guys are. We're in the blender. We try to create an office that is, the American Express Centurion Lounge of offices. I mean, we want someone to want to come to the office, not have to come to the office. But, and people want to work remotely. And if you talk about pre-pandemic stuff. So the thing is, as an advertising agency in Central Florida, we shoot for a billable rate of around $135 to $155 an hour, right? Average. So I compete against Push, Ambar, things like that, right? And they have about similar rates. And we go after bigger companies that are typically in Atlanta, Chicago, New York. We go after the larger companies outside of market, and they can get down and pay me $135, $155 an hour, because in Chicago and New York, they're charging $285, $325 an hour. So I'm a discount. I got creative people, right? And that's kind of how we built our business. Problem is now with COVID, all my people can work remote. And the agencies in Chicago, Atlanta, New York, whatever, are grabbing my people. And they're grabbing my people, and they can pay them $20,000 a year more than I can pay them. And they still save $60,000 on the back end. And so they're snatching up on them. So where do I go to find people? It's tough. It really is tough, because I think that you have to create a culture and environment where that's what you're looking for.
Right.
It starts also when they talk about, in the beginning stages, one of the things that we do is when we post an ad, we're very, very transparent yet, right? So I'm looking for a new traffic production manager. It will say in the job description, are you willing to bust your ass, 40 hours a week and be so tired at the job that you only got 15 minutes a day to commensurate with your fellow employees that also only got 15 minutes, but you're gonna get to do great work. And we really set a true understanding of what it's gonna take to work here. And we're gonna get those people that apply. One of the things when people do come in to offer to look at our agency to work, we don't, we're all guilty of this, I think. We look at a resume and we're looking for reasons not to hire that person. We have in our idea of who we want, right? We want 3 to 5 years of this, 4 to 5 years of this, and we start looking at the resume and going, nope, they don't have that, they don't have that, they don't have that, they don't have that. You should change that, and you should start looking for reasons to hire them. Maybe this person doesn't have 3 to 5 years of account management experience, but they got this translatable experience. And so, we're on the hunt, and you should all be on the hunt right now for good talent. I don't have a challenge finding work. I have a challenge finding people. And one of the things you asked about the job I went to earlier, and you probably all know these, you always have friends. I have a friend who is an architect. He works from home. He has 2 full-time jobs. Neither employer knows that he has another full-time job. And he's a consultant for 2 other architect firms. Kid's making $600,000 a year. And so his wife no longer works, and they have a wonderful lifestyle. I have an account manager. She's been with me for 5 years. She just gave notice. I'm gonna miss her a great deal. But her husband works remotely in the IT industry. She is gonna go be a remote digital project manager. They're probably gonna drive around in a van or whatever the young people do, and work remotely, and she's never worked in the digital space, but he has. He's gonna help her. He has to work remotely IT, working in customer service. That's all she's done. They're gonna make a great team, helping each other with their careers. And that's the lifestyle that they've chosen. I have to create lifestyles in the agency that make people want to choose me.
Very interesting.
It's a great time to be in marriage counseling.
Come over here just to switch gears. Young lady.
Christina with Biddy, and I have a question for Design Zillas and Evoke. How do you deal with burnout from your employees, especially in a high creative capacity with the firms that you have that churn a lot of creative thinking and critical thinking? And because I know to the point of what other people are saying that they want higher pay for less work, it's because of that capacity of energy. So how are you combating that? And also, another question is, what's your thoughts on the 4-day work week as it's becoming a trend and people are more attracted to that?
I can go on the.
Take whichever one you want.
So we actually, for us, the growth path, we essentially have our benefits that they can unlock based on how long they continue to work with us. And at year 4, they are eligible to work 4 10s, or work 4 days a week, 10 hours a day. And that was something new that we just rolled out this year, which has been a really exciting but yet challenging addition based on the role that the individual's in. So for instance, an account manager doing this means that Friday, if that's the 5th day that they're taking off, isn't available to answer emails or have issues with clients reach out. So now we have to think about well, what does that mean for the rest of the team, and how do we build contingencies and policies around that? So that while it's very attractive and I fully believe in the productivity capabilities that go with Core 10, I think there's certain roles that frankly just make it more complex and difficult to allow. And then on burnout, yeah, that's real. I mean, that's real in any job, and especially when everybody's been, working from home or going through the pandemic or the inflation or the schools and all the masks and everything else, right? It's real. And, the environment that you create when they wake up and what they think about when coming to work, is this an experience that giving them support and positivity? Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, it's hard work. Yeah, you're gonna bust your ass. But is it something that's inspiring them? Is it helping them actually feel fulfilled, through all the uncertainties and everything else that they've got going on? So finding creative ways to support them in understanding the vision and the part they play in that. Vision casting is a huge part of all of our jobs, and ensuring that they understand where they fit into that picture. And yeah, we have fun and all sorts of different, we do weird stuff. We have different Harry Potter houses that they're all part of, and all fun, things that just kind of help break up the day-to-day. So, I wish there was an exact answer that I could give you to avoid burnout, but I just say understand it, embrace it, communicate with the employees, understand how to measure sentiment on how they're feeling and how they're doing, so you can get in front of that before it turns in, to them.
That's real quick on burnout. So burnout is a realistic thing. It's not just in our industry, in the creative services industry. I get it because you got to be creative all the time. And be creative right now, right? So, be funny. The thing is that working from home creates it worse. Because the flexibility of a 4-day work week, or you're going to bill 40 hours over the work week. The thing is, if you're working from home, you never stop working. You don't. You might take an hour to do a load of laundry. You might take whatever. But the deal is it's always on your mind and always going. And someone said, I want to respond back in 15 minutes, and that's kind of what we try to strive for people to do. But the thing is that my people get burnt out because they're saying, I'm working so much more now that I'm working home. And they worked at the office. They came at 8:30, went home at 5:30. They put the cap on the bottle from 8:30 to 5:30, and they went home. They had dinner with their family, and they enjoyed watching regular scheduled programming in the evenings instead of grabbing Netflix and binge watching stuff. That they had a routine, and there was a system and a boundary and the lanes. And now they're working all the time. We understaff a little bit at our agency because we're a creative agency, like Central. So we understaff, and we keep a litany of freelancers that specialize in different areas of creativity or SEO or social media. And we call on them on a project basis and bring them in. We have to keep adding catalysts into the group to kind of spark energy. If not, then all of our stuff will look exactly the same for every single client. And you out there in the industry who are hiring agencies, you'll be able to look at that work and go, that's Evo's work. Because all my stuff looks the same. So you gotta feel it.
We are about 5 minutes out from finishing. You get the next question, but I will say this. Your contact information is available. If there's going to be 75 other questions that aren't asked today, or you won't be able to engage them because folks have to leave and so on. So please reach out, send them an email and so on. Don't expect a 15-minute response, but give them some consideration, and I'm sure they will be happy to address those. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to address you. I'm Jana Shelfer. I'm a 3-time Paralympian, and a lot of people know me as Jana Banana from Real Radio 104.1. In 2015, I suffered burnout, and I went into a deep depression. I know a lot about this, and I've become an expert in this. In fact, this is what my company is about. It's called Living Lucky, and it's about finding gratitude. I've spent a lifetime learning how to communicate with audiences, and it wasn't until I became an expert in learning how to communicate with my emotions and my soul. And so I go into companies. This is my husband, he's a life coach. We go into companies, and we just spoke to Cargill 2 weeks ago. We go into companies, we do trainings, and we help not only motivate the the employees, but we also help with what you call the reevaluation, we call company retention, because that's really what they're doing right now. People come to him and they call it the great resignation, but companies are trying to keep their employees right now, and it's about them feeling valued and feeling like they're being heard at work. So we help them communicate with their souls and their emotions, and we help them turn that into fuel. And so we help them transmute those emotions, that burnout, into fuel that help them exceed and excel at work. So I just wanted to bring that up.
That is a great thing. Love to talk to you afterwards. I'm sure you guys could connect. Craig, I'll give you the last question.
Okay, so here's the important thing. It sounds super awesome that you're gonna pay me more to do less work or let me work from home. But you actually brought up the point that all employers have. Hey, I got a friend who has 2 full-time jobs and a consulting job. What that said communicates to me as an employer is he's not doing any work for any of them hardly at all. And they're paying him crazy money. How do you guys actually confirm that the work from home people even work?
Good question.
So in my firm, we monitor billable efficiency, and we monitor productivity, and we all have goals. And if you do your work really well and really fast, all you get is more work, right? So my team knows that they are task-driven, they're project-driven, and we have production managers, and my E team is all 15-year plus in the industry. We know how long it takes to get something done. So we assign a project to someone, and if they can get it done faster, we don't give them more work, we give them more time. They get more time off. I mean, I give them 40 hours worth of work, and if they can do it in 30, they do it in 30. And so they get 10 more hours off. But if they do it in 50, maybe we're just not a good fit for them. One of the things that I did want to stress on this is like, when you're out there as an employee, you're looking for people, set realistic expectations of what you're looking to hire and how long you're going to keep them. I heard someone say rocking chair, right? Rocking chair. We don't do that anymore. I know when I hire a social media community manager, he or she's going to be 22 to 24, 25 years old, and I'm going to keep them for a max of 3 years. I'm just not going to be able to hang on to them any longer. I pay them $38,000 to $42,000 a year to be a community manager. They're going to sit around and post on Facebook and Instagram and do social media plans all the time. They're going to burn out. They're going to get tired of it, and they're going to go on to the next stage in their career. So what we do, and there's no stage at my agency. I only have 30 people in Orlando. So there's no advancement. You can't go past community manager, maybe if you want to switch departments. So what we do is we do a thing called RAP, review, assess, and plan. Every 90 days, we review their last 90 days, we assess their current workload and everything, their environment, their benefits, everything. We plan for the next 90 days. That plan may not include Evoke. That may include that they're going to go start putting resumes out for someplace else. But we want to get as much juice out of that person as we can for the time they're here. And then we want to help them in their next phase of their career. We don't have unrealistic expectations that someone's going to retire with me. That being said, I've got 20-year people, and I'm a 20-year firm. So I've got people that have been around, but we knew that all along. So I think that you have to, when you bring on any new team member, giving them that offer letter, and then give them that promotion letter of how they get the next run. I think you have to be realistic with yourself of how long you're going to keep that person in that role. And you can't be sad when they leave. And quit saying that you're not going to train your people because they're going to leave anyway. The only thing worse than training your people and having them leave is not training them and having them stay. Because you have an untrained workforce, you get your ass kicked by everyone else.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Just to honor your time, first of all, thank everybody here. Sandy, Jessica, Nicole, Johnny, Andrew, Larry, thank you. Great job. The CEO Leadership Forum is here to help give information and share with CEOs in the Central Florida, all around, great information, and also support the scholarship component for Valencia and give people an opportunity to meet other people that they will end up being great friends. So that's why we're here. We're glad you came. If folks want to stay, I would assume I'd have to talk to Nasser and get his okay, because he handles the butter. But you guys can stay, but we understand we asked till 10 o'clock, and you are free to leave. And thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it, and look out for our next invitation because the events will only get better. Thank you.